I might read my.
Live, Pedro. Welcome to the Ginge Pedro Show, episode 18. We have alongside us today, back from the dead, Pedro, Mr. Pedro Ang. Actually, you were here last week too. It was the week
Yeah,
before the Jake Twister episode. Although
I'm
you're
on
you're
drugs.
yeah, you're looking a bit like a zombie today, so maybe
Yeah,
maybe you are back from the dead.
yeah, I'm on drugs, guys. So yeah,
Okay.
I'm medicated, legal drugs, legal
Yeah, right.
drugs. But yeah, I'm good.
Pedro's on the Colombian fancy
Mhm.
stuff they have down there.
Yeah, I'm like,
But
I'm going to the Colombian doctor. I'll be right back.
Yep. So we have a really interesting guest today, a dude who has quite a bit of a library to his credit here,
Mhm. Yep.
Mr. Brian Menard. Brian, welcome.
Good morning. How are you guys? Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yes,
Oh,
sir. Thanks for
awesome.
coming. Your name, your last name, Menard. For a moment, it had confused me because Canard. That's French for duck, and when I read your last name, I was like, Menard, isn't that French for duck? And I was like, no, that can't be right.
Yeah.
I think that Menard is, which is also French, is bold as a bear.
Oh,
Mm.
very
You
cool.
see, from duck
Right
to
on.
bear.
I'll take it.
Much cooler than a duck, even.
Yeah, exactly.
Say good morning to the chat real quick. We got Ichthus in the chat. What up,
What's
buddy?
up? What's up,
Total
Exodus?
Excellence, a fellow
Brutal,
Florida man, dropping the
brutal
alligator.
colorist, man.
Also another Florida guy, Ashen Jackal, and
What's
a
up,
zombie
Ashen?
apparently. Good morning, guys. Thanks for coming by. Yeah, right on. So Brian, how's it going today? How was your week?
Oh, the week was, it flew by. Lots of things going on in my day job, and I've got a lot going on with the comics, so I'm busy
Absolutely.
from morning to night.
Awesome, dude.
Very
That's
cool.
what I like to hear. Just people creating and getting busy.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so I'm hashtag just a writer, but that doesn't mean I don't
Mhm.
wear a lot of hats with my company.
It's impossible.
Oh
Right.
yeah. Yeah, I get it. I would consider myself the same thing, just a writer, even though I like to dabble with art, but it's not something that, it's not something I could charge anybody for with any
No.
certainty at all. So it's like it's just for fun. But I do take my writing seriously in that regard. So it's like, and
And
yeah,
that's what makes you a pro, dude. Like,
yeah.
if you keep doing something for a period of time and you're judicious about it, the money will come because you're taking it seriously. And that's the secret to everything, dude. Put your head down and awake.
So
Hey,
what
thank
kind
you.
of what method do you take to write your scripts? Like, do you write them in prose, the Marvel way, or do you write it in script form, like a screenplay, or how do you write yours?
I actually do both right now. I try to be as flexible as possible. So with Pedro and I, we have this is sort of a secret announcement. We have something going on in the background right now that he's
Yeah.
drawing. Um, for that, it's much more like a screenplay style, like panel one, panel
Hmm.
two, panel three
Hmm.
on the
Yeah.
page.
Okay.
On Foxman, and which is my book. That's the one that's coming out after Spells and Superheroes, which I'm about to start fulfilling. It's off to the letters right now. The book I have out now. That's
Hmm.
drawn by Jacob Whittingham, and he's going to be drawing Foxman, our next book, and that that is, I'd say it's maybe closer to the Marvel method. He kind of asks specifically for no panels on the page. He just
Hmm.
asks for like page, just like panel description, but not like panel one. So I do like
Hmm.
in 2 to 3 panels, and then I'll give a description of what I'd
Hmm.
like to see, and then I'll do the dialogue that would happen after that, and then I might say, and then in this next panel with a description, but I try to give him as much freedom as possible.
Hmm.
So my method, I do write it as if it's a screenplay. I've been an actor since I was in the sixth grade, so I view it all as if it was a play or a screenplay for television. Now, that's not to say that I don't give my artist a lot of leeway, though. There's been a number of times where I've described panels 1 through 6, and he'll come back with 5, but they're better than what I described. And
Hmm.
I'm okay with that because I truly believe that my artist is just as much a storyteller as I am. So the two of us have a great rapport. Now, the artist on the main book that we'll be talking about today is Zilson Costa from Brazil, and he
Hmm.
worked with me on my previous campaign, Siamese. He did Siamese numbers 3 and 4. I had a different artist for numbers 1 and 2, but he and I have been working together for years now, Zilson, and so he's going to be working on the book that we'll be talking about shortly called The Shifter. He's going to be doing the entire series. So I do like working with him. We've got, like I said, a great rapport, and He's really good at sometimes interpreting the panel exactly the way I said. And, you know, sometimes it's like, oh, that's exactly what I meant. But other times he's got the leeway to say, well, you know, I think the camera angle on this one would be better if I did it this way. And 9.9 times out of 10, he's right.
Yeah, the thing is, like, I have to say, like, working with Ginge, it's not really that he tells me what to do in every panel. He just let me know that, wait, this is happening. So I get the choice of camera, I get the choice of placement, I use proxemics. Like, I basically build the scene, but I get this blueprint from Ginge, which is basically telling me the story in prose. So I mean, it's different because I normally work alone, and then I get an editor because I mean, English is not my first language, so my scripts are like maybe a little bit like, what are you trying to say here? So I need an editor to to just revise because I'm writing for an American market. So
Right.
it's all, we all have our, let's say, peculiar ways of getting the job done. But as long as the reader is entertained, we're doing it right.
That's the bottom line. You're right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
So okay.
that's actually,
Mhm.
sorry, I was going to say that's a great segue into sort of talking about your history getting into comics and being a writer, and sort of like, where'd you get started with all this? You said you were an actor starting out. Have you also been a writer? Or are you just a naturally creative guy? Like,
Oh, yeah. I've been an actor. I've been a singer. I've been a screenplay writer.
Very cool.
I started singing in 6th grade. I went all the way up through show choirs in college. I auditioned for America's Got Talent. I auditioned for The Voice. And I'll be honest with you, though, although they sent me home in the first round, there were people in my group that I thought were, to be honest, far better than me, and they sent them home too. So I'm like, what are you looking for? If you don't want that gal and that guy, what do you want? They're fantastic.
Right.
So anyway, yes. So starting out, I started reading comic books when I was 7 years old. We were heading to Florida on a trip in a car. That's about 2.5 days. So Dad let me buy some comic books. I bought an X-Men and a Spider-Man, and I've been hooked ever since.
Oh, yeah.
So having been reading them for more than 45 years, I thought, I think I could probably try my hand at writing one. So I wrote what I thought was a very polished She-Hulk script for an issue. And I did like 5 or 6 different drafts of it. So I thought it was really, really good. And I went on the Marvel website looking for the opportunity to submit it. I think artists have a bit of an easier time submitting their work. They can go to a con, they can show their work. But as a writer, you've got to send a whole script and find someone who has the time to go through it. So I went through their website and I scoured the site. I'm looking all over the place. And finally, I found a small little paragraph buried deep on a page that basically says, regarding submissions to Marvel, you don't. They said, you go get published, we'll find you. So I was kind of like disheartened by that, but I said, all right, I'll look for a small press publisher. And I found a couple that I ended up working for. One of them was very interesting. The ad on this website, which I'll share with you guys, it's called zwol.org, ZWOL. And that website, the guy who created it, his name is Zwolinsky, but zwol.org puts writers and artists and colorists and you name it, anybody involved in the comic book production are available on this site. Now, you also get the gamut of skill sets. I mean, you've got artists that probably need a lot more work, and you've got artists that are really good. And the price points vary based on their skill level. And so I've worked with a lot of people from zwol.org. And what I did was, when I went out there to find a job there, I found this guy who actually had said, looking for a writer, okay, check one, who can help us with our accounting. I'm like, seriously? I've been an accountant for like 16, 17 years. I've been an auditor. I'm like, so I sent him my resume, which showed my degrees and my certifications and the script to She-Hulk. And I said, obviously this isn't for your characters, but you can see how well I can write. So they contacted me within a couple of hours and hired me to work on their book called Shadow Faction, which I think is still available. So I worked with them for a couple of years, these 2 different small press companies. Didn't like how they were handling their creative staff and how they paid them and everything. So I thought, I'm organized enough that I can branch out on my own. And the payment methodology that I use is I wait till I already have the money. Then I ask my artist for a page. They provide me a page in low res. So number one, that lets me know that the work is done. Then I pay them. So now they know they have their money, and they send me the high-res page. So we're both
Awesome.
protected in that regard, and I think all of my creative staff really appreciate that that's how it's done. Because I'm all about protecting. I want to be very transparent, very upfront. As a fraud examiner, as an anti-money laundering specialist, those things are key to my day job. I have to make sure that I'm always above board. And, to be honest with you, that's how I want to behave. I think that
Yeah.
respect for the creative staff is as important as respect for the customer, which is
Yeah.
also key.
I have a note though. As a
Absolutely.
creative, a low risk file is less offensive than a watermark file. So it makes
Less offensive?
yeah. Because sometimes I used to work for this. It would be like an editing house,
Okay.
and we would send a low res version of a commercial to a client, but it will have like watermarks all over the place. And that to me is like, okay, the client can't really see the final
okay.
product because it has a watermark on it. And I've seen some people who use the watermark method to basically secure payment, but having a low res, like if you publish a comic book in low res, it's not gonna work,
Right.
and it's less offensive than a huge watermark. I'm just saying, like, from how things can be seen, And
I agree. Yes,
yeah,
that's a good point. I hadn't even thought of that, but yeah, that's a good point.
yeah,
And you're right as to regard as to whether or not it's offensive. If they send me a low res, it's for the same purpose that you're talking about that a watermark serves, and that I really can't use it. But for some reason, throwing a watermark over it almost seems like they don't trust you.
exactly.
Which I know is kind of what we're talking about. We want to
Mhm.
establish the transparency, the trust, and all that. And a low res, you shouldn't be able to use it. So I mean, it's the same purpose, but I get where you're coming from on the watermark thing.
Yeah, because I felt filthy doing it. It wasn't my fault. It was like, put the watermark on. Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, I started Dojo Kun Comics about 6 years ago, and the Dojo Kun, to let you guys know, is I've been a karateka for years. The Dojo Kun are the 5 rules of the karate dojo, and I earned one of my belts early because I could actually recite all 5 rules in Japanese before it was required. So you're only required to know them in Japanese when you're going for your black belt. But I knew them far sooner than that because I studied them. I'm just as interested in the etiquette of the martial arts as I am with the combat skills. So I named my school, or my I'm still talking about the school. I named my comic book company Dojo Kun Comics after the rules. And Dojo Kun, like I said, has been around for about 6 years. I've got 12 comic books that I've published before I entered the crowdfunding arena.
Awesome.
And I was out there on Facebook posting some of my characters, and somebody in the Indie Comic Network said, "Hey, Brian, those are pretty cool characters, but you really ought not put them out on Facebook before you publish them." And I said, "They are published." So I gave him a link to my website. He's like, "Oh man, well, you really ought to come watch these couple of YouTube shows. I think you'd really be interested in the community." So I did, and I'll be honest. I first went out and looked at Wikipedia as they described the community that these guys were in, and it was very negative. But it was because I'm naturally skeptical. I felt that the way it was written was far too biased. I thought, even if there's a grain of truth to this really seems biased in one direction. So I'm gonna decide for myself what this is really about. So I went to the show and found that not only was it biased, but it was completely inaccurate. The people there were welcoming, accepting, encouraging, supporting, and they were from all walks of life. We're talking all races, religions, genders, LGBTQ community. I mean, everybody was represented, in my opinion, in this group. And I thought they were racist. I thought they were homophobes. I thought they were. That's all incorrect. There were none of those things. So I've been in the chat ever since, and that's been more than a year now. I've started my own YouTube channel, which perhaps we'll talk about in a little bit. I've been a co-host on a show on K Manifesto's channel for about 8 months now. We're changing things up, and we can talk about that too.
Yeah.
The first show he had was Dojo Kun K Manifesto show with Dojo Kun Comics, and he and I had a very themed show where we did slides and themes with presentations and guests. Brian, go away.
Thank you, Amanda B.
Hi, Amanda.
Thanks for coming by.
She's heard this probably 100 times.
Yeah.
And then I also had a show called The Co-Hosts Show, which just last week we aired our last episode, what we're
Oh.
going to do with that now is we're going to pivot that into a show on my channel called the Dojo Kun Shill Shack. And the show is going to be very, very similar to the co-host show. I'm not going to lean too heavily on whether or not the co-host, the guest stars with me, is a co-host somewhere else. I'm just going to find other people who are interested in coming on and interviewing creators with me. And if you'll let me share my screen, I've got that.
Oh, right ahead.
Whoops,
Absolutely.
I'm sharing the wrong thing here. Let me go back over here. There we go.
There you go. Nice.
So this will be the banner. You'll see this on all of them, and it'll also be at 10 p.m. Eastern on Wednesdays. So, and it starts on January 5th.
Oh, awesome.
Very cool.
So that's a show we'll have on there, and I've been in this community therefore for a little bit more than a year. I found it to be very welcoming, and love the support that everybody provides.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I got into CG because of Dan Frega, and I would always say that. And before reading what CG was, I was at a dance show, so I felt the energy. I met the people. It was the time where Dan would let anyone in, which to me was dangerous. When I went in, I told him, dude, what are you doing? Like, anyone can come in. You can have, like, like men, hairy nipples all over the screen. Like, you don't know what's going to happen. But, dude, everybody was so welcoming. And then I started hearing, like, oh, CG, they're Nazis and they're Iron and they hate black people and they hate women and they hate LGBT. And it's like, dude, I never saw that. Never saw that. So,
Never.
yeah, so it's a thing. Like, dude, I'm Latin American and black, Latino. I should be tarred and feathered in this community, according to them. I know, but
according to them, yes.
Yeah, I felt nothing but love, dude. Nothing but love.
That's right. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
My staff, as a matter of fact, is very, very international. I have a married couple in Russia who do some of my coloring and lettering. I've got people in Brazil, Barbados, Argentina, the Philippines, Canada, just all over. And I welcome talking to all those people. I don't necessarily learn their culture or eat their the food from there, but I love talking to them. They're so much fun to interact with. The only difficulty I find is some of the people in Europe are difficult to deal with only because of their time zones.
Yeah.
When I'm available to stream and to talk with them, they're in bed sleeping because it's like 3 o'clock in the morning for them. So that makes it a little difficult as far as communication goes. But even then, Aria Black has been on my show. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning for him, but he's like, dude, I'll get up. I want to talk about my project.
Nice.
So
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So regarding projects, is there anything you have on the stove right now ready for people to get on?
Absolutely. I have 2 projects right now, and maybe I'm crazy for having 2, but I have 2 that are in the pre-launch sign-up phase right now, and I'd like to show those. So what I'll do is I'll start on my website because I talk about it in a bit greater detail here. And the first one I'll talk about is the Shifter. This is my company's opportunity to work with an award-winning novelist, Janice Hardy. She's right there on the screen. She wrote a trilogy called The Healing Wars. Originally, I was going to adapt the first novel into a 140-page graphic novel. So her novel's 370 pages, and it took some distilling to get it down to 140. But, to be perfectly transparent, if I were to ask for the amount of money necessary to pay an artist, a colorist, a letterer, and her license for the entire 140 pages, a lot of people would see that number as my goal on Indiegogo and probably hesitate to back it because they think, I don't think you're going to get that much. So what I did was I'm going to break down the novel into 2 graphic novels. So this is book 1, part 1, and it'll be 70 pages. And I think the dollar amount there would be a bit more palatable for people who are considering backing it on Indiegogo. So the Shifter, I can tell you a bit about it. The whole Healing Wars trilogy is about Naya. She's in the middle there on the cover. And Naya has the ability to transfer pain, just like a lot of the folks who are in the Healing League on her planet in her country. The thing is, her skill is a little flawed. Her sister Tally, just like a lot of them, can transfer pain from one person into a enchanted metal called pinvium. Well, her skill, Naya's, is flawed in that she can't push it into the pinvium. She can only transfer it to another person. And the reason that's a problem is her country's been overrun by a enemy nation, and she worries that if they find out about it, they'll weaponize her against her own people. So she's on the run. She's an orphan, so she doesn't have much of a support network. If anything, she's her sister's support network. And she tries to hide her ability, but what happens is her sister and several other of the Healing League apprentices go missing. So Naya, in her attempt to save her sister or find out what happens, she's a little neglectful, and a pain merchant discovers her abilities. And then she's got to worry about compromising herself to save her sister. So there's a lot of, some moral dilemmas that she goes through, but she's also going through the hero's journey throughout this trilogy. If I had to compare this set of novels to other, famous works of literature, I would say that this is very much like The Hunger Games or Divergent, where the main protagonist is a young woman who starts out with very meager beginnings and then discovers the issues that are going on in her world, and then rises to fulfill her destiny. So it's no secret that Naya is the main protagonist throughout the entire series, but we get to go on that journey with her. So my wife read this series first. She said that it's kind of young adult in so much as it's not. There's no R-rated themes. There's not a lot of blood and gore. There's not a lot of titillation or anything like that. She said, but it's so good, I think you'd like it. So I thought, it's probably a quick read. I'll give it a read. And I did. And it was very well written. I really enjoyed it. I couldn't wait to get from one novel to the next. So like my wife, I was discussing it with a friend of mine. And I said, this is really great. I think you'd like to read it. And he said, well, not only have I read it, but would you like to talk to the author? I was like, how would you arrange that? He said, well, I work with her husband. So he works remotely, and so does Janice's husband. So they, it doesn't matter that she and her husband are in another state. He got me in touch with her, and I brought her the idea of, I'd really love to adapt these into comic book form. And she and her husband they're sort of like casual comic book fans. They're not, crazy like I am about comics, but they were excited about this. So, Janice was on board right from the get-go as far as this adaptation goes. And she serves as the editor when I'm adapting them. So I go through, like I said before, distilled her 370 pages down to the 140. And then I sent her the script. And she did have some great suggestions. I made some changes, and we were good. So let me scroll down a little bit more.
What was that process like? I'm just curious, like getting to talk to the novelist directly and the sort of editing. Were you like cautious with how you approached telling her, like, there's this part of it, of your book that I want to cut out, or was she pretty understanding about the whole thing?
Well, yeah, that's a very good point, because obviously a novelist wants everything there because they took the time and the care to write it all. But she was super reasonable in understanding that you couldn't possibly have it all in there. So what I did was I tried to select those pieces of the novel that, number one, moved the novel or the story along, that there was a good transition from place to place. And in a novel, there's a lot of exposition that you don't need to write in a comic book. It becomes the artist's job to convey a lot of those words by just drawing the picture. A picture's worth 1,000 words. I think my artist Zilson's capable of throwing 2,000 or 3,000 in a picture. So
I'm very intrigued by the magic system, because when I read fantasy books, whenever I'm presented with a magic system that it's out of the ordinary, I'm already in. That's why I love like Mistborn and those kind of series. So the author had an idea of how to depict graphically magic in this setting.
Yes. I think that if you could consider it a form of magic, I think that the people in this era, which would be around Renaissance era on Earth, that's what this would be like. I think that whether this was a mutant power, whether it was magic, I think everybody would have attributed it to magic.
Mhm.
And what she would do, she described that they would feel a tingling in their body. They would be able to
Mhm.
like reach out into the other person's body, identify where the pain was, and draw it from
Mm.
there. So, in order to depict it graphically, I suggested that their hands glow blue to match the
Mhm.
pinvium, which was the metal that she described. The metal looks like maybe like a blue marble, is how she
Okay.
described it, more than metal, but it's definitely a metal. And I thought since that's like a cobalt blue or royal blue, that's how I would ask the artist to depict their hands glowing when
Mm.
I'll call it the power manifests itself. And here's how she had the artist depict it on the covers of her novel. So you can
Yeah.
see like this blue, almost like a
Like
fire or something going
tendrils.
on.
Yeah. Like tendrils going. Yeah.
So
Awesome.
I stuck with that because after all, I wanted to keep it as close to the original as possible.
Hmm.
Um, And here, though, is an example of my artist Zilson taking an idea of mine and improving upon it. I said that, Naya, being an orphan on the run, she's going to go from vendor to vendor in the morning looking for somewhere to work to make some money for food. And so I said, she's going to go to the butcher, she's going to go to the shipwright, etc. And he decided, you know what, that sounds like the pieces of her day. So he made
Hmm.
it puzzle pieces.
Nice.
And I thought, oh, that's brilliant. I had not seen that before. I love that idea.
Very
And
cool.
it wasn't like it was super difficult for him to do that. In the first row, as you can see, it was as if it was one picture that she was walking from person to person. And then the second row, he's got this store and then this one, then this one. So not only did he do puzzle pieces, but he also varied how the puzzle looked. I thought, wow, this is detailed, it's intricate, and what a great job.
Yeah. Very
Um,
original.
Yeah.
Now, he's also very fast. And the reason I say that is like if you look at this scene and you were to zoom in on it way down to the detail, their faces aren't super detailed. He gives you the idea of the panel without having to get into a lot of detail until it's on close up. And then he's great with facial expressions. You can see that she's looking off into the distance, that her friend Aylin is looking very concerned about her. So when detail is important, he knows when to apply it. Um, and I think that's important for storytelling too, and for his
Mhm.
professionalism as far as getting this accomplished.
Yeah. There's a book called Film Directing Shot by Shot that speaks about that issue, like as a recommendation for storyboard artists.
Okay,
And is that if you're working in a long shot, it's really hard to see facial expressions, so don't even bother.
right.
And even though this is comic books, I mean, you need the art needs to be not as functional as storyboards. It's the same principle. Like if you're doing a long shot, you want to show scenery, you want to show like an action scene. But if you want to show sentiment or whatever, you got to use body language more so than facial expressions.
For the long shots, yes, you're right. I
Yeah.
agree. Yep.
So Brian, you may have mentioned this earlier, but so the shifter, is it fully drawn? Is this ready to go?
Nope, this one isn't, and that's largely because I'm in the financial situation that not everyone is, and that is I couldn't have paid for all 70 of these pages ahead of time. I honestly need the crowdfunding to pay for this book.
Right.
Um, having produced the 12 comic books I did before out of my pocket means that it was very slow. It was like I mentioned before the show started. I
Mhm.
make sure I have the money before I ask for the next page. So I make
Mhm.
sure that everything is happening the way it should as far as treating my creative staff correctly. So no, this one's not done yet. We're 16 pages into it, and like I said, it's 70 pages. But
Mhm.
again, Zilson is very fast. I'll bet if I give him the script and say I'm ready for the next 3 pages, I'll have the next 3 by Saturday. So he's that quick. He can get me 3 pages a week, maybe 4 if there's not a whole lot of detail.
Very
Awesome.
nice. Right on. Yeah, that's a lot how Pedro is. I give him a couple pages of a script, and then I mean he is actually faster than I am. I mean that's the thing. He's pretty much been on my ass this entire time we've been getting this thing done.
Come on, let me do the next page, man.
Give me something to do, baby. like,
Right.
like a drawing crackhead. Come on, baby, give me some
You got some more of
So
that stuff?
so is this your first attempt at getting a hold of a license, if anything? Because that's actually a really interesting prospect. I'm sure for a lot of people, pretty much everybody wants to get a hold of some kind of license.
Interesting you should ask that. Let me scroll down here to my previous books published. This
Oh
is
yeah.
them. There's 12 of them. And this one here, I Am Become Death, was a prose novella that I adapted into comic book form. Now, it's a short story. It was only 12 pages. So in order to make this a full comic book size, I also include an art gallery at the back of this one. But this one
Nice.
here is like a space opera. And it's got a very, very interesting twist at the end. I don't want to get spoilery at all, but this was the first time I adapted someone else's work into
Hmm.
comic book form. Now, these over here, the loved ones, this is a collaboration that I had with Dave, or Dave Whalen of Corrected Handed Press. He wrote the concept of this one, and then I wrote the script, and he did all the art and lettering. We it's a story about the children of the classic movie monsters, a son of Frankenstein, a witch girl, a werewolf boy, and a vampire boy, and they all get together and go out in search of their parents. It's not a cutesy kid story, though. It is, things do not go well for these kids in their adventure. It's over 100 pages. It's black and white, but his art style is it's very cool. And you can order it from either my site or his. So we're sharing the, whichever one
Very nice.
whichever cover you prefer. He's got his own publishing company as well.
Right.
The Mad King is a 3-issue miniseries. Issues 1 and 2 are done, and they are entirely painted. Every panel on the inside is a painting by Annette Bell, and Annette did this cover here. Dave Whalen did the cover for number 1, the guy I was just talking about over here on Loved Ones. He did this cover, and then she did the painting of cover for number 2, so you can see her skill set there.
Is there any pages of that? If you clicked on that right there, would there be any like sort of sample pages to look at them? I'm just curious, like kind of a painterly style.
Let's see. It takes you to Indie Planet, and these are.
Love to see a couple.
Oh nope! I guess it doesn't show pages. I thought it did. I thought there was a way to. Nope. It just.
Very cool idea, though. What was the motivation for going with a painted? You've got several hundred pages of comics to your name. I mean, that's really
Yes.
pretty rad.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Very prolific, man. Congrats.
I've been writing for a while now, and I sometimes I can't type fast enough to get my ideas out. So, I have to go like shorthand and just put down like partial sentences and all that to get things going. My first campaign on Indiegogo was collecting these 4 issues of Siamese into a trade paperback.
Right.
So, and it's a connected superhero universe. So talking about that, these top 8 books here are all in relation to the connected superhero universe. Before I get to that, let me go over to the Healing Wars pre-launch page so we can wrap that one up. If you sign up for this, you'll get a secret discount tier when we launch, and we're launching on Michael Bancroft's show on February 18th. With that secret discount tier, you'll get some money off of the book. You may not be able to be the first one to back it, but it's possible. And we're launching in collaboration with Jake Adams, who does Cobalt. His book is Cobalt Death Stalks Us, so we'll both be launching on Michael's show. If you back a physical tier on both of our campaigns, you're going to get a homage print by Shelby Robertson, and he's going to do an homage to X-Men number 141, the Days of Future Past, the cover where Wolverine and Kate Pryde are in the spotlight, and there's a wanted poster in the background. Well, that wanted poster is going to be filled with a bunch of CG characters. So I got permission from 15 different CG creators to put their character on that wanted poster.
Dude,
so that print is going to be fun. I already love the idea. Shelby's already got the stuff, and as I understand it, he's started working on it. So that's going to be fun. I'm anxious to show that to everybody, to incent them to back both projects. So, all right, let me go back to my website then, because what I want to show you is the next campaign I want to talk about is Toro Tales. So Toro Tales came out first as a 22-page floppy. It's right here on the left, which, by the way, is also an homage cover to an X-Men cover. That's X-Men number 126, How Sharper Than a Serpent's Tooth. And
very nice.
This here just had 4 stories in it, so it was a short one. My campaign here is going to be 86 pages. The cover will be different from this one. The cover is going to be done by Eric Ninotowski, who does Shadow Sentry. Eric is doing the cover for this. I can't wait to show that off. But Toro Tales is going to have 9 different stories in it. I've obviously added some more to it. And so it's going to feature my characters Lone Shark, Halia and Ondine, known as H2O, Bot 42,
Very nice.
Sparrow, Sovereign, Sakura, and Night Mist and the Scarlet Archer. So lots of great stories will be added to that one to make this one, worth backing as a crowdfunder. And then also available on that campaign will be an ash can starring this character, Bog. And Bog, I suppose, would be my version of like Swamp Thing. But his
Very
story
cool.
is very different from Swamp Thing's. I think that as a writer today, it would be impossible to escape comparisons to what's come before. I mean, you could easily say, well, you're a loan shark guy. That's just Namor in blue. Well, I mean, he's got a lot of similarities to Namor, but his story is different. The city he comes from, the technology they use, et cetera, et cetera. So,
If it
would
makes
be
you feel any
impossible.
better, if it makes you feel any better on that, I didn't pick up Namor at all. I mean, I'm not super familiar with
me
that
neither.
character, so I mean, just
Oh,
right
okay.
off the rip, yeah, I wouldn't have saw that at all with that character. But I
Excellent.
actually, yeah,
Yeah,
I
like
have.
some tropes can be derivative, but in a sense, like not every water-based character is Aquaman or Namor,
What's funny
So
is
that to me is a little bit unfair. But yeah, because there's like 5 elements you can. So every fire-based character should be like Avatar, like from like I don't know. It's just as long as you give it the right angle to make it unique and recognizable. I mean, I think it's cool.
Thank you. Yes, that's my goal every time. I've been collecting for like nearly 50 years now, so obviously I'm going to have influences from some of the great writers and artists that I've read all this time.
Right.
When I write, I try to emulate the writing of either Marv Wolfman or George Perez, in that they write their team books as if they were not just teammates but friends and treat each other like family. Um, I think the greatest example I have is when the X-Men faced Proteus and they were messed up from that encounter. And Cyclops, when he used to be written like a good leader or a skilled leader, when they respected the character, he decided to start a fight with Wolverine, Nightcrawler, and Storm because they were all affected by Proteus. And number one, that takes a lot of chutzpah just to try to start a fight with all 3 of them, let alone just Wolverine. So once that fight was done, he depicted those characters as having a great amount of newfound respect for Cyclops. So that kind of thing, I think, is great characterization, character development, and building. And that's what I try to emulate when I'm writing. I don't want to just have a knockdown, drag out fight. Hey, here's the bad guy. Here's the good guy. They fight, and look at that, somebody won. I want character development. I want to make sure that I show them teasing each other, maybe giving each other a hard time, maybe busting each other's chops for a bad decision. But these things are what a team would do. So that's what I try to write.
Very nice. Yeah, I love how you've pretty much gone full bore into your own superhero universe. And I mean, yeah, you've definitely eight books in that series already. What's that been like? Because I'm sort of doing that behind the scenes slowly, and it's kind of the way you've got it, just doing different books, introducing other characters, doing ash cans of other characters, trying to fill in the gaps, sort of intelligently, I think is kind of the way I was looking at doing it. Yeah, very nice.
Well, the way that's been like, I would say that I have all these ideas that I'd like to get out there. I don't want to do it with haste so that it gets done poorly. On the other hand, I feel like I can't get it out there fast enough because I've got these ideas. I want to see, number one, I'd love the consumers to enjoy them. Number two, I'd love to get their feedback. Like, am I going down this path and you think that it's silly? Is it sophomoric? Or do you like it? Should I continue in this way? And that is the number one reason why I love this whole crowdfunding arena, is the direct connection with the consumer. The consumer, I've gotten some critique on Siamese, for example, from one person who, in my opinion, is a super backer, and that's Nefarious. He gave me some great feedback about Siamese. And although it's a little stinging as a creator to take critique, on the other hand, I'm also going to learn from it. I'm not one of those that says, well, then you just don't know how to read comics. No. I totally appreciated the time he took, because he was very detailed in his response. And like you should, he was also complimentary in the things that he liked. So I think that was a great way to couch his critique in compliments, so that I, softened the blow a little bit and I learned from it. So that's what I love about this community, is that we support one another, we are encouraging one another, but we also get that one-to-one interaction that I think is so valuable.
And that's a feedback that makes this community unique. Because
Mm.
I mean, I see as an example of what not to do. It's not really a comic book; it's a movie. The Tales of the Green Knight that came out this year.
Okay.
That movie is a self-serving, making no sense piece of crap.
Oh,
And the thing is, like, I know what the director wanted to do, and it's very artsy, and the shots, everything is beautiful, but the movie makes no sense because he had nobody to slap him.
oh, yep.
Like Hanna had Barbera to slap him when he was doing something crazy, and that's why Hanna Barbera are who they are. They're too that collegiate feedback of people letting you know when you're going astray is very important. I believe that in CG, like people can be callous. I've been told I draw like a toddler sometimes. Sometimes people have praised me for what I've been doing. Um, you're not everybody's cup of tea, but you get critique constructively and you improve.
Right.
And that's something that as artists we have to put on the big boy pants, because we're not going to be loved by everybody. And I'm talking about writers, I'm talking about artists. We're not going to be loved by everybody. Some people are just going to be mean for the sake of being mean, but others are going to say, hey, I don't like what you're doing, and it's because of this. Maybe you check out this book, maybe, and maybe you'll go and it's like, oh, I've been doing this. I'm doing only two noses. It's something as simple as we all have codes in our heads, and maybe you draw an ear in a certain way, and you're trapped in that way of drawing an ear, and it becomes something that irks somebody with OCD. It's like ears are not like that. You wouldn't know that if he didn't tell you.
So this is actually kind of a good segue into Brian. What have you think you've learned, like the most? What's maybe been sort of your top three kind of biggest things you could pass on to new creators?
Oh, yeah, great question. Okay, so number one, I'd have to say pacing is a thing. And the reason I say that is I oftentimes, like I told you, I can't type fast enough to get my ideas out. And along those same lines, I've sometimes rushed a scene into another scene where there needs to be more of an explanation as to how we got from point A to point B. Now, I'm thinking it, as I'm writing this, I'm thinking it in my head, and it's like, well, it makes perfect sense from here to here. But sometimes if you're outside of that, you're not in my head, you're thinking, I don't see how we got here. So I need to make sure that the transitions make sense and that I slow it down a little bit to make, and maybe it increases my page count, but that just means that I've got more of a story to tell, and I need to be careful in that regard. I think number two, what I've learned is to be more conversational in my panels. I've got to picture the characters, how they would actually be speaking to one another rather than how I would write something. And oftentimes I would have them call each other by name too often. If you and I are talking, I haven't called either one of you by name yet because we've interacted before. So I'm not going to say, well, Pedro, the reason you know what I mean? So to be more conversational, they wouldn't keep using each other's names. And that's just one example. And then thirdly, not only conversational, but you've got to keep in mind too, that in a panel, there can be too many words. You've only got so much space. And if you put too many words in there, your letterer is going to cover up some of the great art. So your artist needs to keep in mind that there has to be word panels or narration boxes. But at the same time, the writer, all the way back at the beginning, needs to keep in mind, I really ought not have any more than roughly 20 words in a panel, or it gets far too cluttered.
Or you get a Marvel page.
Oh, yeah. Like that one panel of Colossus on one knee trying to explain why jokes are bad. And it's like, I don't know, a couple hundred words. That nobody wants to read all that. Not only do you not want to be preached at, but that's just too much. These comic books are meant to be, escapist entertainment. If I want to learn lessons, I'll turn on the news and get depressed that way.
Yeah,
With my comic books, I want to have fun. I want to escape reality. Take me out of it, sensationalize, put me on suspension of disbelief. Yes, I want to believe a man can fly. Do I? No, of course not.
There's no need.
But it's okay if you want to do something sensational. If something happens that's way out of the realm of scientific possibility, that's okay. This is a comic book. Have fun, So so all of these things, pacing, conversation, and words per panel. I think those are my top 3 that I've learned.
Awesome.
Very nice. Yeah, the conversation bit, I caught myself the other day just rereading some of what I had wrote. I was like, that problem exactly. I just had a character, like, they just kept saying each other's names too much. I'm like, I deleted it like 3 times. I'm like, okay, we don't need to do that all that much.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, unless it's like a mom talking to his child.
Yeah, well, if there's scolding involved, then you're right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, I mean, could you tell us a little bit about Siamese? Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Oh, all I was going to say is when I was scolded, my mom would even throw my confirmation name in there. I would be Brian Dennis Michael Menard when I was in trouble. So, okay, yeah, Siamese. This was the launching point of my entire superhero universe.
Very nice.
They have a couple of, the old trope misunderstandings with other heroes. So, like here, they're fighting Brickhouse, but Brickhouse actually becomes an ally later. The story is they are, I call it a deviation gene to avoid the copyright that Marvel and DC share with the word mutant.
Mutant, yeah.
Really? So I call it a deviation gene. They are super agile. They have prehensile tails. That's not just a costume. They are twins. The one with the white tail is more the responsible of the two. She's like 10 minutes older than her sister. The one with the black tail is more like, not careless, but sort of carefree. She makes more jokes and all that. She's more flirty. And they make friends with Breathtaker. I think throughout this 4-issue miniseries, I introduced like 7 different superheroes and approximately 8 or 9 supervillains. So there's a lot going on in this. And then after this one, these stories down here are happening concurrently with Siamese or right thereafter. Then after the 4-issue miniseries Siamese, I'll be going into Deanna, Hammer of the Angels. She's introduced in cameo during the Siamese miniseries, but she comes into her own in her miniseries, but it's continuing the connected superhero universe. So some of the characters that are introduced, actually most of the characters that are introduced in Siamese will continue in Deanna, Hammer of the Angels. So Deanna is loosely based on my wife. That's her name, Deanna. She's been called the Hammer at several different unrelated companies that she worked for. So, she's sort of authoritarian. The plume on her helmet comes from the fact that my wife is a Spartan. Go MSU. Okay. So there's a lot of things that I incorporated into this character that makes it a lot of fun.
Very nice. Also
in the queue, I have Cobra Lily, Bedchambers. Cobra Lily is a super villain, but this one here is just sort of a fun. She's basically narrating the book. It's simply, think swimsuit edition that Marvel put out in the late 80s, early 90s, but without the swimsuits. So this one's definitely for adult audiences. And this one here is about halfway done, but I'm going to wait to bring this to the crowdfunding arena until it's completely done. And I can't decide yet if it's going to be its own campaign or if it's going to be an add-on onto something else, because it doesn't really have a story. It's got some narration to it where she's talking, but that's kind of tongue-in-cheek. Ooh. No pun intended.
Yeah. I mean, with a book like that, where else will the tongue go?
That's a good point, Pedro. It's a fair question.
Yeah.
Definitely. And then another one that's in the queue is Maygun War. Now, this one here, the artist / writer reached out to me and said, Indiegogo doesn't allow for campaigns in the Philippines. Would you be willing to put my story under your banner? And, I hesitated. I'm like, I don't know if I want to start publishing other people's works. I said, but, let me see what your art is like. And wait, this is your art? We're in. It's on. What have you got? Nice. Now,
awesome.
This guy, Arias Hernandez, is from the Philippines. He works with Disney. He's an animator with
Mm,
Walt Disney. Although I think Disney is an evil conglomerate, this
yeah.
guy is great. He's good to work with. He has uh, he's published this in the Philippines. It's, I think, 64 issues. I don't know how far we'll get
Wow.
working together, but maybe once Indiegogo comes around and lets the Filipinos do their own work, maybe he'll take it on his own. But
Yeah.
Megan War is about a government operative who learns through her visions that something catastrophic is going to happen and she needs to stop it. But as is often the trope, nobody believes her. Oh, you're just having nightmares. Knock it off. You're just dreaming, and you're thinking this up. You're making this stuff up. So she's got to go take it on herself. So she's got the skills of a government operative. So she goes out to try to handle it herself. Now, Megan War is the Tagalog word for gang war.
Mm,
So and like
Megan, that's the word for gang
that's the
war.
word for gang. Yep.
Okay, okay.
So that's where this comes from. He also calls his main protagonist the Megan. So
I like it.
yeah, I do too. He, like Pedro said earlier, English isn't his first language. So I'm also working as his editor. I'm making it
mm.
conversational in English for the American market.
Mhm.
And I think this has got a lot of potential. We haven't gotten very far with this yet, but I'm excited about it, and I think this is going to really do well.
I love the
Awesome.
character, and I mean, it is partially because she's got red hair, so I have to support
Yeah, but
redheaded
you got to
characters
keep
where I
with your
can.
people.
I promise you, I'm not going to replace this character with a black female. Now, that
Yeah.
doesn't mean that there won't be any black females in here, because maybe they're important to the story. But
Mm.
she will remain as she appears on the screen right now.
All right, I'm gonna hold you to that, Brian.
All
Yeah.
right.
I
Yes,
hate to see it otherwise now.
she will
Yeah, dude.
remain a ginger.
As an international creator, I can attest to that because I mean I've been setting up a U.S. company for the last like 9 months to be able to launch my projects, and
Oh,
I'm
okay.
not done yet. I'm not done yet, and it takes. I know it's a leap for somebody in the U.S. to grab like somebody international. Like, okay, I got this story done. Can you like do it for me? Like, there's links across that have to be built before doing something like that.
Right.
But yeah, dude, like there's a lot of people internationally that are doing stuff that they just don't have access to Indiegogo or Kickstarter, just because
Right.
of that.
Another great example would be Miriam, who
Hmm.
recently put out Bonds the Drive.
Yeah.
Ooh,
She's in Slovakia, and they don't have the opportunity to crowdfund on Indiegogo. So she worked with Red Gaze, who's helping her
Hmm.
tremendously. And I
Yeah.
think they've got a great partnership going.
very nice.
Yeah, it's awesome. So
So, so could you? I'm actually just kind of curious. You said there's 64 issues of Megan War out,
Right.
dude. That is fantastic. So, how many pages per issue? What's a Philippine comic book like? Is it much different from Americans?
It is. I think he's got closer to 40 pages in each issue. So he and I have to
Damn.
talk about how many are we going to put into the graphic novels that we'll be putting out on the crowdfunding. Do we want to like double it up and make them 80 page graphic novels? And
Oh
he's
yeah.
kind of on the fence about that right now. He's not sure he wants to do it that way or if he wants to do them separately. I can see
Mhm.
why that would be a tough decision. That kind of thing I'm going to leave up to him. Um, but he's also, looking at me and several others for advice in that
mhm.
regard. So,
Yeah.
we'll work it out and do something we think will be in the best interest of Arias as the creator and of the fans.
Yeah.
Very nice. Yeah, you've got a really interesting network of people you're building around comic books. It's really, really great. Honestly, that's kind of how, not aside from Indiegogo, that's kind of how this will survive. It's just people bringing in new creators and
Mhm.
fresh stories and fresh blood. So is Janice Hardy? Do you plan on interviewing her? Is there any kind of like crossover there in the future?
Well, yeah, Janice has been on with me on one of the streams like this one. It
Mhm.
was called Comics Cast Let It Out with the guys over at Comics Cast, and she was great on screen and talking about this as an exciting opportunity for her. In fact, we had the entire creative staff for the shifter on there, which was a lot of fun. But that was all the way back in January. So we're finally getting this one rolling now. I've got a crowdfunder I'm ready to go with. So yeah, it would be a great opportunity to have her on a show like yours, or maybe bring her on my Shill Shack later.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
Yeah,
Like, we're open
that
to
would
all
be
that kind
fun.
of good stuff. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Okay.
If you'd like to drop the Indiegogo link for the shifter in the private chat,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll go ahead and throw that in the chat
Okay.
here.
What I'll do is I'll stop sharing so that you guys don't see all of the behind the scenes copying and pasting and
Yeah.
jazz.
We
Really
should
awesome.
see that.
We'll say hello to the chat real quick. We got Dion, the Tome of Reckoning. What's up, buddy? Thanks for coming by. Pops Van Zant. Good morning, Pops.
Hey, Pops. Hey.
Pops. Yeah, dude.
Yep.
Pops
Actually, yeah,
he's
Pops.
a mensch.
He is a real mensch.
I'm starting to use that word. Like I
I
heard
am
that,
too.
like, he's a mensch.
David Chiesa was on last week, and he said the word mensch. He called the chat a bunch of real menches, and then, dude, apparently Pedro's been saying mensch. I've called people mensch in my own life since then.
Yeah.
It's just a thing now. But no, on Pops's show, just a quick little shout out and thank you. My first, I guess, appearance was on CromCon 19, I think. And it was with Nefarious and Simon Portier, who we actually have next week coming on the show. And Nefarious is my very first backer. He's actually backer number 1 on Spells and Superheroes. So
nice.
Yeah, he's a real gangster, that dude.
An OG.
Big shout out. Okay, cool. So let's drop these links here. Okay, very nice. So there was one part of the shifter that had me interested. It was the name, the Pain Merchants. That's quite a title. Could you tell us about the Pain Merchants?
The Pain Merchants are, if you want to use the term entrepreneurs, what they do is they, if you push pain into this metal that I've been talking about, pinvium, after it's been fashioned into a sword, if you hit somebody with the sword, not only do they receive slashing damage, but they also get all of the pain that's stored in it.
Ouch.
So if you, like, let's say you've broken a leg, somebody draws all of the pain of the broken leg out of the person and pushes it into the metal that's forged into a sword. Now you get a slash in your arm and all the pain of a broken leg.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So
brutal.
I mean, I'm in pain right now, so I can.
It's kind of like John Coffey from what the hell is that movie? Not The Shining.
The Green Mile.
Yeah, but like battle mode.
Yeah, right.
You don't deserve it.
Cool. So the Pain Merchants, do they play? Is there like a specific company? Like, how is it? Is it a governmental organization? The Pain Merchants.
Oh, I see. Nope, they are individual entrepreneurs, and they're thought of as being pretty immoral. They're thought of as that's not, it's not illegal necessarily, but they're just thought of as that's real sketchy to be doing that.
They're like the tobacco industry.
That's a great analogy, Pedro. Yeah, exactly. So a pain merchant, like I said, learns of her powers and then finds a way to coerce her, and then she's got to decide, does she cave into that coercion or does she stand her ground? So I don't want to give that away, but it's definitely a moral dilemma that she's got to face.
So she would basically be a new product for the pain merchants, because before it's like, okay, we have the metal with the pain, now we have a direct conduct of pain.
Right.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
So the Pain Merchants, they don't necessarily even need to have the healing power themselves. They're almost more like an agent in a way.
That's true. Yes, a lot of them are enchanters, where they can enchant the metal so that it becomes pinvium. But as far as being shifters or takers, which is the people who don't have the flawed ability, the takers, they're neither of those.
Okay, very cool. I like it.
Dude, I love intricate systems, man. Are these books on Amazon? Can I get them on Amazon or where?
Oh, her novels? Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Oh, awesome. Or you could go to I believe it's JaniceHardy.com. She's got them available there too.
Okay, directly from her would be better.
And she's also got a book, 8 from Reality, or oh boy, I'm probably butchering that. I don't have it right here next to me, but she's got some other work that she's done.
So let's take a little closer look at this artwork, because man,
Yeah.
you were not kidding, bro. This is that looks fantastic. Just the clearness and the quality of the colors, really digging it.
And the colorist H.G. Tobalina from Spain, she is like pro level. She takes great pride in what she's doing. She might. She's not quite as fast as the artist, to be honest with you, and that's okay with me because she brings a level of pop and interest and really just a richness that I really appreciate. Because
Yeah,
I
she's
really want to
been-
treat this project with kid gloves. I want to make this the best it can be, not only for my company but for representing Janice as well.
Yeah, I mean,
Absolutely.
she's managing the lighting very well.
Yeah,
You
that
know,
boat,
like,
that scene,
yeah.
the sky here. I like landscape paintings anyway, so I'm a
No,
big
and
background type
you can
guy.
tell like the time of day. You know what I mean? Like the weather.
If you scroll down just a little bit there on the left where the two the ferries are colliding, that there is another depiction of her ability, the lightning strike and the how it's lit up, and I
Yeah.
think she did a great job there too.
Very
And
nice.
not to discount, although this doesn't show any of the lettering, this is probably the only CG book that Eric Weathers isn't lettering.
Oh.
My letterer is Matthias Zanetti from Argentina.
Okay.
So he takes great pride in it too, and I think he does a great job as well.
Yeah.
So
That's a very common name in Argentina, Matias.
Oh, is it? Oh,
Yeah,
Matthias.
Matias. Yeah.
So Brian, you had mentioned it's just kind of a good segue. Did you find all of these guys from the same website? Your team, your creative team. You mentioned another website. I think it started with a Z.
Z-Wall, yes.
Z-Wall.
Did I find them all from Z-Wall? No, I found H.G. Tobalina from Twitter, and the other two were from Z-Wall.
Z-Wall. Let's take a look at that real quick.
ZWOL.org.
ZWOL.
Yeah, Ginge is gonna try to steal your lunch. I know that look.
Oh, come on.
Don't you poach my creative team.
No, they've done a great job.
I'll come down to Florida, man.
I'm sure. One of the problems, Brian. Okay.
I'm already hunting for B-Rose in Texas. I can just make a side trip.
Nice.
Yeah, not that far away. Nice. Probably a little bit warmer. Okay. Z-Wall. All right. Very nice. So, yeah, what are we looking at here? Is it just is this a random artist that's featured from the website?
Yeah. It looks like it, yeah.
I like the armor.
Nice.
I'm an armor guy.
Work. Yeah.
Very nice.
That is good. Who is that?
Let's see. Portrait. Does it say?
2020. Doesn't say.
I can see a signature down there.
Oh.
It says Stephanie. I can't make it out. It looks like
don't
Stephanie
tell me it's
19.
Stefani Renee, is it?
I don't know. Maybe. Hold on.
I mean, it's good.
Very good. Yeah.
I don't know. Okay, that's cool though. Yeah.
Is that all that appears on the? Oh, okay. No, there's more down there.
Yeah, here we go. Yeah, it's.
Oh, okay.
So how do we navigate this thing? Where are we gonna find some artists to look at?
It looks like perhaps on the right there they've got some possibilities. Yeah, just click on one of those names. Perhaps it'll take you to
Peter
that
David.
artist's work. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's hope there's no nudity.
Oh yeah, don't get struck.
Yeah.
Just a picture of me with my nipples
Like
out.
breasts. Yeah.
Okay, so
Peter David. Yeah, there's a name you might be familiar with.
I've heard that somewhere.
So that took us to Peter David's blog, that's cool. I guess I'll hit the star button for Peter David.
Yeah.
Everybody. Maybe we'll come back to that. Okay. Well, that's a cool little resource to have, though.
Yeah.
Just
awesome. And that's the thing. Like, a lot of people say, like, "Hey, I'm a writer. I'm looking for artists." Like, there are tools out there for you to link up and find whoever is gonna. Hey, what's up? Good stuff.
Yo,
Harry Dave. Bow. Good stuff.
Yeah, bow. Crack back.
Yeah, the Alterna forum, actually. I've met, I think I contacted Pedro originally for the trailer for our book, Spells and Superheroes, from there. I also contacted my artist, Jacob, off of the Alterna forums where the help wanted there. So there's a solid resource there as well.
Oh, my God.
Oh, if you don't mind me segueing. Oh, you all right, Pedro?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good.
Okay.
I just took a wild turn down here. Just,
Oh, okay.
uh,
Careful there.
yeah, sorry.
Um, Speaking of resources, when I went out to shield Siamese, I went on 80 different YouTube shows to push the book. And what I did was I kept track of the shows I was on and then put them into a spreadsheet, which is now a PDF on my website called the CG
Mm.
Guide.
Oh,
And
nice.
that it
Nice.
has CG shows as well as CG adjacent or CG neutral shows. So long as they have a regular show on a weekly basis or monthly basis, I feature them on that CG guide. Yep, right there on the right. And
Yeah.
Awesome.
it's updated every so often, and
Right
you can
on.
download it from there for your own use.
Oh,
And
nice.
so if you're looking to shill a book and looking for, I'd really like to get going
Oh,
on this and do the grind and let people put their eyes on the project, it's a good place to find shows to reach out to. It's got their Twitter handles on there, so you can reach out to the creators and hosts and ask them to be on the show.
very solid.
Awesome.
That is
Yeah.
incredible, actually.
Dude.
That is a super useful
Yeah.
resource.
That's a
Hold up.
good solid for the whole CG community or
So
independent community.
if
Yeah.
any of your viewers have a show that they know of or that they host and they want to be included and it's not there, please hit me
Yeah.
up at Dojo Kun Comics on Twitter, and I'd be happy to include you.
Are we
Yeah,
there? Are we
we.
there? Are we
I
there?
was.
Are we
I
there?
don't. I don't think so. But if you wouldn't mind, Brian, we'd love to be on this list. I mean,
Yeah.
we're always
Absolutely.
taking new, old creators. Any
So
just in between guys, whatever.
make sure you shoot me the details then, and I'll make sure I get it in the next update, which should
Oh,
be,
Very cool.
I'm actually working on my website today after the show because having brought this up, I see a few things that I'd really like to update and put different things in different places on the website. So thank you for that. I'm going to work on that today, and I'll make sure that this CG guide gets updated.
awesome.
Very cool.
Ginger the
And
Soul Stealer. I like it. That
that
sounds good.
sounds
Good stuff.
great. Yeah.
It's not bad. It's honestly not bad. I kind of like it.
I'm
Good
already
stuff. We might
working
do
on the
something with
design.
that, buddy.
I'm already working on the
Very good.
design.
You know what?
Okay.
Another Ginger who is sort of a deceptive one is what's her name? Hendrix from Our Mrs. Reynolds from Firefly. She was very
Mm,
deceptive and tricky, and
yeah.
wow, her
And
appearance
wild.
really, she
Yes.
was awesome. Christina, that's her first name, Christina
Oh
Hendricks.
yes. Yeah. Big ol' a fantastic chest on her, as well as a
She's
great
she,
actress.
she's got a lot of TNA, which by that, of course, I mean talent and ability.
Yes.
It's like I'd say for like, I mean, I don't know if we're getting too raunchy here, but like the best chests in Hollywood for me, it's like you'd put Christina Hendricks and Alexandria Dare. I have no idea how to pronounce her name. Diadario or something. She played. She was in the new Baywatch. As I don't know the hell
Okay.
of the name of her character. I can't think of anything else. She plays in like random shit. Anyways, she's solid. Okay, guys. So
Yeah.
let's take
You
a look
said
at the chat here. Help me
you
out,
said
everybody.
Baywatch, and I remember Erica Laniak.
I didn't see it. I've caught her in something
Oh.
else. She was in was it Knock Knock, I think. She was in just like she's in random horror movies and does random
Mm.
stuff. I mean, she's got a great set of puppies on her there. I mean,
she's
it's
in there
just
for
cool.
the AATM, sure.
Yeah, you're sending me on a memory quest now, James.
All
That's gonna
right,
take me
damn
all
it.
day.
Let me just look. I mean, we're not going to
Yeah.
look at her tits, but let's see just
No.
what movies it is. Hold on.
Oh,
Now I am, because I'm looking like an
you
Alexandria.
know how I get.
Okay, hold up. All right, so movies and television. All right. Okay. Oh, True Detective. That's what she was in where I know her from. Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
The
I
first
know
season of True
exactly who you're
Detective.
talking
Really,
about.
really great show.
Yeah, that's
Um,
yeah. Mm.
yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay,
yeah,
we're going away from
all right.
what the show's supposed to be.
That was the one. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is a great
Well,
show, though.
we are all 42-year-old males here in this community, so
Yes.
it's okay.
Yes, we are. Yeah, I got to just ponder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, guys. Well, that was fun talking about tits, but anything else we got going on? How's everybody's Sunday going?
Oh man, yeah, I got lots to do today based on some of the stuff you guys reminded me. I've got some trailers to create. I've got the
awesome.
website to
Nice.
update, and as you can see, man, I got so many irons in the fire that I keep super busy.
Yeah,
like it.
that's so cool, man. Okay, we're past the hour. Oh, I'm
Mhm.
having a lot of fun. So you guys want to keep at it? Hey, let's keep at it.
I mean, I actually kind of have to head out. I got some chicken wings to cook. I'm gonna go over to my
look at
parents'
you.
house, and my
Okay.
brother just moved back down from Indiana, so he was up there for like a total of a month and a half, maybe 2 months. Too cold.
Too cold. Okay.
I was a disc jockey in Indiana for a few years. WNJY Joy 103.
Very fun.
Nice.
I was a DJ for a titty bar, so I guess it's back to tits yet again.
Back to tits. Awesome.
Sorry, everybody.
Everything comes back to those.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that was my favorite. Besides, not the boobs necessarily, but the radio DJ voice. Like, all right, y'all. Up next to the main stage, the lovely Cinnamon. Right? That's how I did it.
The
Very
Ron Radio
stereotypical.
voice.
Yeah.
We call it the Ron Radio voice at the Specs
Yes.
Howard School of Broadcast Arts.
Alrighty, so let's get this on the screen one more time. The Healing
Yeah.
Wars. We got
The Shifter.
it's called The Shifter.
The Shifter is called the book.
Right.
Tell us again when it's launching, Brian.
It's launching on February 18th, along with Jake Adams'
Awesome.
Cobalt Death Stalks Us.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
so
guys, join the mailing list.
Yep.
And this book looks awesome. Awesome
Thank you.
colors, awesome art.
Let me do that right now.
And while you're doing that, also sign up for Toro Tales Volume 2, Number 1.
Do it.
I just hit the button. Bam.
Bam.
Okay, very cool, guys. So this will be launching on Bancroft's channel, right? You guys are doing
Right.
the duel, and if backers back both yours and the new Cobalt book, they'll be receiving a shared print from Shelby Robinson, right?
Yes.
Awesome, dude.
Hey-o.
Shelby is a beast.
Very
You
cool.
bet. Yeah, I'm a
All right.
I'm a simp for Shelby's art.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Boom.
So Ashton Jackal's wife was a nude model. Very nice. Okay, guys.
Really
All right, we're
nice.
getting the hell out of here. This is gonna.
Getting
All right.
out of hand.
Okay, we're gonna end the broadcast. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you, Brian, for joining us, man. We had a
Thanks
lot
so
of
much for
fun.
having me. I truly appreciate it.
Hey,
Yes, sir. All right,
thank
brother.
you, man. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, Brian, we're going to bump you to the back real quick. If you want to hang
Hey.
out for just a minute, we usually chat for just a couple minutes. Yep, sorry about that. I always cut the guests off too while they're
Yeah,
talking.
dude,
I think I
that's
do it on
horrible.
purpose at this
It's
point.
horrible.
Okay. All right, everybody. We will catch you next week. We got Simon Portier coming on, Sim. Everybody loves Sim. Yep. So we will see you
Fellow
next week.
animator.